I-V-M.
Hello one, hello all. Welcome to the Diary of the Traveling Professor. And I'm Siddharth Deshmukh, your friendly neighborhood traveling professor himself. What do we have in store for you this week, huh? What do we have? Well, it is a bit of a sad thing, but maybe a happy takeaway from it. The death of a Bollywood star, Sushant Singh Rajput, has left everybody questioning why people commit suicide. And in his case, it was linked deeply to perhaps his embittered response and life-taking response to nepotism. Now, I don't know whether it was his embittered response to nepotism and the fact that he was an outsider to the star system. I'm not sure of this because it just seems like a very desperate step to take. And I don't want to get into the why did he commit suicide angle and whether the story is true or false, but I wanted to talk about nepotism itself. Nepotism obviously gets a bad rap. What does nepotism actually mean? It means that, you allow your son and daughter to get ahead in life because of who you are, and let the world go to hell. Now, the whole deal is that if I say it this way, nepotism sounds like a terrible, terrible deed, and it just sounds like a miscarriage of justice for anybody else who's talented and worthwhile and the rest of it. So I decided to study nepotism a little bit deeper for you folks. Yes, just for you. And nepotism is really, the more I dug into it, the more interesting it became. I realized first that nepotism is as old as society itself. It is very much part of the societal culture. So any business-oriented family passing down its business-oriented genes to offspring, is it part of nepotism? Actually, if you think of it, what constitutes this nepotism business? There are 2 or 3 things that do. One is, it can be the know-how that you pass on to the next generation, the know-how, yes. The second can be the resources. Well, if daddy's a millionaire, you are a millionaire too, whether you like it or not. And the third one is the network, right? Now, my grandmother and grandfather were both teachers, professors even, right? And I am a professor. I seem to have stumbled upon, taken the long way around and become a professor just like my grandparents. And my dad's taught a lot of neighborhood kids too. He tried teaching me, but that's another story. And the funny thing is that it apparently is in my genes. Now, would you say that if somebody encourages me to be a teacher and pushes me ahead in front of some more deserving candidate, is that fair? No, of course not. But is it fair that my grandmother and grandfather have passed their genes on to me? Of course it is. So if I look at the way in which we distill nepotism, if my grandmother and grandfather have given me the money, well, that's not a problem. If they've given me the know-how, either genetically or by just teaching me, that's another no problemo. The real problem comes when grandmother and grandfather and father and uncle and aunt and the rest of it start utilizing their strength and power in society and push an undeserving candidate into their network. Now, does it always work? Does it really work? You have heard of a couple of stories. I mean, story number 1 is this really not such a good actor being promoted by a really wealthy and influential producer family to no avail. Doesn't work. The guy still looks like a mechanic and acts like a mechanic and is not an actor, and he should stop being an actor. No prizes for guessing. The second one, here's a man of principle who used to be the head of an IT company, which was like a bellwether company for India. And suddenly he brought himself back in and his son to start heading important positions in that company. Now that to many reeked of nepotism. Again, no prizes for guessing. Now these are some bad examples of how a network that daddy has built can be utilized for, the unjust promotion of an undeserving candidate. So, what does an outsider actually do to fight nepotism? First of all, I hope that I've convinced you that not all nepotism is bad, not all aspects of nepotism. If the know-how is passed, if the resources is passed, nothing like it. If Mr. Ambani has made more money than his father, then, well, he's done something with it. It's not like he's put it all to waste. So, coming back, what does an outsider do to fight nepotism? Well, here's the first good thing, right? If I look at the film industry, and if I look at Amitabh Bachchan, and if I look at Shah Rukh Khan, and if I look at some of the other actors who have really become the biggest stars of the industry, they're all outsiders. So it is, strangely enough, if you break through the nepotism stranglehold, which is damn difficult to do, especially in guilds, and I shall get to that a little later, then, well, you will really make it big. So that's motivation for you. The second thing about nepotism is that, sure, while you may not have the network, you can still have the know-how passed on from your parents. You can still have the resources passed from your parents. You can try to figure out how to work 3 times or 5 times or 10 times as harder and smarter as the people within the guild, because that seems to be the only way out of nepotism. Work 10 times as hard, hone your craft, and make yourself so good that they can't ignore you. Now, is that a surefire recipe for success? Of course not. There are many people who will get ignored in spite of them putting in all the hard yards and the rest of it. But it is your only chance of breaking through the nepotism stranglehold as an outsider. I keep yammering on about guilds, and what is a guild really? A guild is a loose sort of collaboration between people, like the Screen Actors Guild and this guild and that guild. It's not a full-fledged industry, but it's a loose societal sort of thing, which has its own strange, quirky rules, and it is damn difficult to break through these informal rules. Sometimes formal rules, which belong to industry, are difficult to break through. But these guilds, they are built for nepotism. Now, I don't want to rail against nepotism too much, or the people who are benefiting from it. What I do want to say is that there are some positive aspects, and there are some ways in which an outsider to the system can really steel himself or herself to get through, knowing fully well that if they do make it, they will be the biggest and brightest in their chosen field. Now, is there a way in which you can actually look at this entire ecosystem, okay, and do something about the decision that you make on nepotism when you yourself have made it big? And then your son says, "Papa, promote me because I want to be somebody in your field too." Well, that is your choice. And maybe that is when you will move from one camp to the other, or you might tell your, offspring to go suck it. Completely your choice, of course. But do remember it when you do taste that well-deserved success. I hope you like this diary entry of mine, and many more to come from where this came from. Want to follow the funny side of Siddharth, the traveling professor? Instagram it is. If you want to follow my little bit of a serious side, well, then it is on LinkedIn, wherein I share my thoughts. I do a webinar as well, wherein I'm talking to industry experts and understanding about trends, right? And if you like podcasts like these, well, there is the app, of course, the IVM podcast app that you can download, or just go to ivmpodcast.com. Happy listening.
I hope you enjoyed that show. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Paytm Money and Intel. We appreciate their support. It's been a fantastic week on the IVM network. I hope that you've been checking stuff out, but some of the highlights that you definitely should check out. Ashish Vidyarthi, host of Begin the Journey, was on Cyrus Says. They had a really fun conversation. I think you'll enjoy that. Uncle Please Sid did an episode around development, which was really, really fun. On Edges and Sledges, we had Adam Holyoke, former England captain. Wow, those guys are killing it, one cricketer after the other. Definitely do check out Advertising is Dead. We talk about esports with some really guys who really know that space. Smile India, absolutely right. These guys are killing it as well. So is Pawan at Pragati. Don't forget The Original Things. Again, one of my favorite shows. You must check that out. And thanks for listening, and we hope to catch you again next week.
Are you looking for India's most awesome cricket podcast? Are you now tired of listening to the same old guys drone on about cricket everywhere? Edges and Sledges is a weekly cricket podcast hosted by three fans of the game, Varun, DJ, and myself, Ashwin. It was established in early 2018, has over 60 episodes now, and is of course now proud to be on the IVM Podcast Network. Each week, we get together from three different time zones, the USA, the UK, and Singapore, and we talk about things from the world of cricket, with a focus on Indian cricket. We often interview special guests from all around the world, including former cricketers and cricket media personalities. So check out Edges and Sledges, the cricket podcast, now on the IVM network.